What's going on?
Sanders, what's going on?
It's Megamaid. She's gone from suck to blow.
What? They're getting all their air back. Do something.
Do something.
Do something!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time to bring Nalo back on the channel so we can talk about some of the financial issues plaguing the movie theater industry that has been going on due to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic that's gripped the world right now. How you doing, Nalo?
I'm doing great, Wes. Thanks for having me back on the channel. And there's been a lot of fast-moving financial news in the entertainment domain, so excited to dive in.
Yeah, so of course the big one is AMC. We've been following this story for a couple weeks now, and you know they are the largest movie theater chain in North America and in the world. You know, just as far as movie theaters go, but they also have an enormous amount of debt. They have a lot of lease obligations. They do not have a lot of liquid assets. Their stocks have been downgraded over time, and they can't really borrow money anymore. And Wall Street is basically believes that they're going to be filing a Chapter 11 bankruptcy soon. This is what B. Riley FBR analyst Eric Wold had to say about AMC. We continue to believe that AMC has minimal liquidity options to make it through an extended theatrical shutdown period, even with the recently reported decision to no longer pay rent on its theaters. We also know that AMC was in talk or is in talks to hire a bankruptcy lawyer. And now we know that AMC is trying to raise $500 million in private offerings because they really don't have access to debt on the traditional market anymore. It sure does sound like AMC is going to be going through a Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Yeah, it's really looking that way, and they may be delaying or deferring rent, but this kind of new articles really spell out the financials that they have to pay $250 million in rent per quarter. So that's half of the amount of debt they're trying to raise. And that they have almost $5 billion in debt already, but they're trading on 30 cents to the dollar. So confidence in this kind of business and stock are really shooting down. We see, that things may be reopening and movie theaters are on the top of the list for reasons we can dive into. So, their stock may jump up and it kind of looks like good news, but if you really dive in here, this is bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. Of course, we talked about it the last time we talked about some of the financials with Disney and AMC, and it all comes down to that acquisition spree they went on. They lost all their liquidity. They jumped up in debt, and they just weren't prepared for a crisis like this. And nobody really is. But with the amount of liquid assets that they have, their debt obligations as well as their lease obligations, even if movie theaters come back online, by July, they're probably still going to have to do a bankruptcy and get the company back in order if they ever want to, come back online again.
Yeah, no, we've spoken about this in the past, and movie theaters may open up again, but the kind of consumer psyche, will they want to go back? And even assuming that plenty do, the restrictions are going to be that they have to add social distancing measures. Does that mean they're going to take out every third seat, et cetera? So that even means if they get a full house, it might even be only 1/3 of the revenue that they normally get. So it's kind of unclear how they're actually going to navigate these waters, and especially with the kind of big blockbuster films being delayed anyways, maybe they're going to have to innovate to even get people into the house. Maybe we're going to see old news clips being shown, like people used to go to the movie theater to, get the news.
Yeah, because a lot of the blockbusters have been kicked out of the summer season, into either kind of the Christmas season, and most of them have actually just gone to 2021. So it's not like there's going to be a lot of blockbusters waiting for them when it happens. And also AMC is the only real big company that I heard of that actually furloughed their own CEO. That's how drastic their money issues are.
Yeah, not only their CEO, which is drastic, but all 600 corporate employees. So it's every executive, every board member, but also any business analyst or anyone who kind of works in the corporate headquarters is just completely laid off. And that's a pretty large move for such a kind of core piece of infrastructure in the American entertainment system.
Yeah. So how you navigate these waters without a CEO and a head of the company is beyond me, but they are obviously doing that. They are trying to raise another $250 million. I doubt there's a lot of private people that are just ready to give them money when there's so many other companies that could probably use money right now that would be better, more financially sound investments.
Yeah, especially without this kind of CEO to really lead the pitch, come in the room and like tell their vision. If this is more like a zombie company with $5 billion in debt, it seems like these deals are probably being negotiated by suits, lawyers, and bankers. And the people who actually are the normal decision makers are kind of out of the picture. So this just seems like, the people who are experts in structuring debt and accessing liquidity are steering the ship. And that's like their number one priority. It doesn't sound like their priority is leadership and vision, how they're going to actually reformulate their business.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good. I don't think AMC is ever going to return exactly how we remember it. Probably a Chapter 11 in their future with a restructure, and hopefully they can sell off some assets and become viable again. Now, there is a competitor in the market that's also having issues. Cinemark, generally considered among investors that the research that I've done, like the most stable movie theater company in North America. And they're also the third largest theater chain in North America. They are raising $250 million in debt offerings among the virus crisis. And the reason that they're doing that is obviously because of what's going on with COVID. Their Fitch rating was downgraded on April 9th, with their credit rating issues, because basically the feeling is right now, movie theaters aren't going to be allowed to open until June at the earliest. But Cinemark is in a much healthier state as far as debt to liquidity ratio than AMC. They have almost $500 million in cash on their balance sheets. They also have access to $100 million in credit already. So they're trying to add that available credit up to $350 million. Plus their lease obligations are minuscule compared to AMC. I believe it's like $500 million for the year. Or maybe it was more like 400 compared to the $1 billion that AMC had. So it looks like as long as theaters start opening up around June or July, they should be fine. I believe even one of the analysts said that they thought, with the amount of cash they had on hand, that even if theaters didn't open, they could probably make it through all of 2020.
Yeah, it's looking like that. It's compared to AMC, they look like they're in a much better situation, having almost as much cash on hand as AMC is trying to raise in debt. They do obviously have revolving credit lines that they've drawn on, but they're not leveraged up like AMC. AMC is like 6 times leveraged over their debt. They don't have liquidity. They have insane amount of obligations to pay. And so it does look like that with the economy potentially reopening, recovering, and some sense of normalcy coming, Cinemark may be able to kind of navigate the ship. In the kind of SEC filing for AMC, they're pretty clear that if they don't get this $500 million, they can't guarantee any obligations. Where Cinemark seems to just be more in line with all the other entertainment that's suffering, but it's not as eyebrow raising as AMC's situation.
Yeah, they're more in a Disney situation where, yes, times are rough. There is no income right now. They already have access to a large credit line. They just need to grow it because there's so much uncertainty in the market right now. All right. So another thing that we're learning is, Hollywood had some virus relief efforts that they've been doing. I think so far, one of their fundraisers only went up to like $600,000, and there's been a lot of grumblings in the entertainment industry that a lot of these billionaire philanthropists that have made so much money in the entertainment industry haven't been opening their purse strings, and the ones that have mostly been sending money, for first responders and things like that, and haven't really been keeping it in the industry and supporting Hollywood employees that have been out of business. But there are 3 of them that have made huge donations for workers in Hollywood and entertainment. Netflix has set up a $100 million fund to support out-of-work streaming crews, as well as some motion picture and television actors and workers. Sony has also done $100 million, as well as Warner Media. It also has $100 million in this COVID-19 like Hollywood relief fund. That seems like a lot of money, but that industry is quite large, and there are a lot of employees. They're going to need some more, if this keeps extending out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's great to see. Of course, happy to see people participate in charity and helping out where help is needed. But to me, this speaks to more of a structural issue and systemic kind of problems. And it kind of is mirrored almost in the comic donations we see where creators are auctioning off their artworks to potentially support stores. But it's like, why are stores in such a dire strait anyway? And why are so many of the independent contractors, the filmmakers, the studio set people? Why are they left out to dry when all this time these big corporations were actually, paying out dividends to their stock, doing stock buybacks, and spending all of their cash on that? And we'll get into this in another episode, but tech companies have actually just been sitting on cash. They have so much cash. And so if something like this happens, they can really take care of all of their employees. They can actually give out, bonus checks just to help them. Where here, these companies have just been running on debt and gas fumes almost. And now they're looking to just billionaires to try to bail them out. And I think it really speaks to the structural issues that these companies have had. And they've been operating in a way that's not sustainable for their family that they should be supporting, which is all the hard workers.
It's very much in line with a lot of the issues that we actually have in Western society, as far as holding far too much debt to savings, far too much debt to actual income. And the government, of course, has been doing that for a long time, ever since, Reaganomics. When we were fighting the Cold War, we went into massive amounts of debt to fight that. We never really turned that off. And then in the 80s, you finally had, I believe it was the Diners Club was the first credit card. And ever since then, American families and American companies have just been way too comfortable living and operating under massive amounts of debt.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully we start to see businesses, start putting away money for a rainy day like we see today. It's kind of the most sensible thing to do, something your grandma would probably tell you. But these companies did get way too comfortable, and they got too comfortable with the growth in the stock market and prioritized, buying stocks, pumping stocks, and not really putting aside emergency funds for moments like this. And I think that those who did save up, maybe it's coming from tech, maybe they're going to actually come into this kind of industry and transform it, because there might be some fire sales coming up if they can't sustain their kind of debt overload.
Yeah, we are absolutely going to talk about that in another episode this week. I believe that one's going to come out on Monday or Tuesday. I believe it's Tuesday, but you might see that one on Monday. It's going to be called Stream Wars, and we're going to talk about some of the opportunities that are available for a company like Apple, who has an absolutely insane amount of cash to debt ratio that dwarfs anybody else in entertainment right now, other than Amazon. Of course, they have Prime and everything like that. So yeah, hopefully these are hard lessons learned, and there are going to be survivors, but there are also going to be companies that aren't going to survive. We've already talked about AMC. Don't see them making it through in their current state. Looks like Cinemark is probably in a much better position to ride out the storm. Hopefully things start coming back online May, June, July. It sounds like things could be coming back. Of course, President Trump did address the nation yesterday, I believe it was, where he started ruling out the 3 phases that we're going to see where the economy basically opens up. It's not going to be the whole nation. It's going to be done kind of in regions. Once your region, hits certain thresholds, you hit phase 1. Once you hit other certain thresholds, you hit phase 2. And then some of these other businesses where it involves a lot of crowds, they can actually start opening up and having having customers again.
Yeah, it was interesting to me though. In phase 1 and even phase 2, it recommends like telecommuting or working from home still when applicable. But movie theaters will be open in phase 1, and so if you're still not able to go to your job and it might not be safe, I have trouble believing that you're going to say, oh well, I should still work from home, but I'm going to go out to a dark, cramped movie theater with a bunch of strangers in a room. So I'm curious why movie theaters have been prioritized over other kinds of public-based events, and it maybe is that these companies are potentially, pressuring behind the scenes that they're so debt-strapped, they're in such trouble, and they want to open up for business. But time will tell if the crowds actually return in these kind of phase 1 moments.
We were talking about this before the stream, but it feels like the government stimulus that was supposed to boost some of the small businesses and bigger businesses that have been absolutely wrecked by this the shutdown of the economy. They may have underestimated the need out there and the amount of companies that were going to be requesting cash and things like this. So we may see some places open up a little bit sooner than maybe even is safe, because they're not going to be able to bail everybody out. At least that's the way it looks to me.
The payroll protection program that was supposed to help any business with 500 or less employees has ran out of funding. So the whole entire program is currently on pause. because the demand was just so high. And it's unclear when it will be refunded, when that will resume. And even if it does get refunded, if there'll be enough money for everybody who's eligible. Kind of seems like a shot in the dark if you're going to be able to get this. And I see tons of people on the internet from all different industries complaining that they can't really hear back from their banks. And those are for small businesses. On the big business side, it seems like they're getting much more support and bailouts or handouts, but that's all going to cover debt obligations and this kind of massive restructuring. So yeah, the economy is not doing great, but so opening up is definitely a great sign if it's safe to do so.
Yeah, it definitely needs to open up, but I hate to say it, I don't want to be, a negative Nancy here, but we're not past the worst days. Let me put it that way. There's going to be a lot of hard times, for everybody, and we're all going to have to kind of, come together and hopefully, as they always say, the cream rises to the top, and the companies that were best in place to weather something like this or had the best ideas will eventually, rise to the top and prevail in the end.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I actually got blocked by saying that to somebody on Twitter because they were accusing me of, relishing in this butterfly that will emerge from the cocoon while other businesses fail. And I'm like, it's devastating that this is happening, but the reality is those who are able to adapt and have, cash on hand are going to be what rises to the top. And we're not going to go back to the old normal. It'll be a new paradigm. And it's unfortunate. We're all being affected by it, but it's going to be a new world and a new economy as we move forward.
Yeah, the business reality of today is not what the business reality was 3 months ago. The climate has changed, and not everyone was prepared or is prepared to succeed in that climate, and that's the way it works. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, crises precipitate change.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, Nalo, I think we've talked enough about all the bad news. We do hope the movie theaters start opening up in the near future. People hopefully will start visiting those, and we can start churning some money into the entertainment industry. Not sure exactly what it's going to look like on the way out, but it's certainly going to look different than it was 3 months ago. And we'll continue covering it here on Thinking Critical.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the next discussion.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.